Happy Tuesday, 8th grade. So we're focusing today on Flowers for Algernon, the essay. We've started our essay plans, those pre-plans. We're moving into finishing up and looking towards what is this essay going to look like. So today we're going to begin with focusing on leads. How can we begin this? You should have a document that you can be following along with if you like for this part. So remember, we always begin with some kind of lead, some type of attention getter. Okay, if you take a look at the 4 different paragraphs, the first 2 paragraphs have the identical lead. If people took a survey about what they would like to have more of, the answer for the majority would be money. So here we have a appeal to a universal interest, the idea that most people would like money. Okay, they're using that in 2 different theses. We'll take a look at that in a second. In our 3rd paragraph example, we see how you could use a quote as a lead. For what shall it profit a man if he gain the whole world and lose his own soul? Mark 8:36. Here we're using a quote that's going to get people's attention and is kind of driving the idea of the fact that Charlie might gain intelligence, but does he really benefit him in the end? Okay, finally, our last example of a lead. Life is a gamble, a roll of the dice. No one knows what the future will hold. So here, this is kind of maybe a startling statement image, not too startling, but it's a vivid image that life is a gamble, a roll of the dice. No one knows what the future will hold. So all of these are a way to get attention. Remember, you can use questions, quotes, startling statements, vivid image, all of these. But when you begin your essay, you need to get their attention. Then you're going to move into the background. Couple things that you need in your background. You need to make sure that you have put the title of the short story, Flowers for Algernon, short story in quotes, okay, in the background information. That's part of our MLA documentation. Then we know that all of the page numbers are referring to that short story. Okay, that is how we're not plagiarizing. We're also going to include anything that a reader might need to know in order to understand the thesis. So you need to talk about Charlie. We probably need to talk about the operation. Other background information is going to depend on what thesis you choose. Then at the very end, our last statement in our intro paragraph should be that thesis statement. Remember, thesis is not a question. It's a strong statement that you are going to prove in your body paragraphs, okay, about the story. So let's take a look at our first example. If people took a survey about what they would like to have more of, the answer for majority would be money. In the short story, Flowers for Algernon, Charlie Gordon has different ideas about what is important. Charlie, a man with a very low intelligence, wants to be smarter more than anything else. Offered a chance to partake in an unusual surgery, Charlie risks his way of life to gain what he's always wanted, to be smart like his friends at the plant. What Charlie doesn't realize is how his participation in this experiment will change his life. Because Charlie has the intelligence-enhancing operation, the relationship between him and his coworkers will never be in balance. So we have, that's our thesis. What are they proving? The relationship is never in balance. The relationship is off the entire time. Notice that in the background we talk about Charlie, but we also specifically talk about the coworkers, that he wants to be smart like them. Okay, that's an important thing that a reader needs to know. Treat this as if someone has never read it. Okay, you have 3 more examples of the leads to kind of give you an idea about what this opening paragraph should look like. To keep this brief, I'm going to move directly into an example essay. Okay, I will pause as I am reading this to make some comments about things that are done well here, things that are not. Normally I would do this on the overhead. I do not want you to have an essay lest you try and use too much of it for yourself. Just how Mrs. Kirschman rolls. Okay, but I want you to hear what this essay should look like. What would you do if you had the chance to increase your IQ 3-fold? So first of all, we use the word you. We don't use you in formal writing, but a question to open is okay. Most people would jump at the opportunity. In the short story, Flowers for Algernon, Charlie Gordon actually got that chance. He was a man of low intelligence, wishing only that he could be smart like his friends at the factory. When fate chose him as the participant in an experiment to increase the human IQ, Charlie thought he would finally be able to live his dream. But little did he know that his fellow laborers didn't share in his enthusiasm. Throughout the duration of the experiment, Charlie's relationship with his coworkers went through many changes. Same topic we see as our previous lead, but this is a different thesis. You will write your own thesis. Okay, body paragraph 1. Before the surgery, Charlie's coworkers looked down on him. For one thing, they disrespected him. Whenever someone did something stupid at the factory, the staff referred to it as pulling a Charlie Gordon. Besides that, Charlie's friends humiliated him for their own amusement. Joe Carp and Frank Riley would get him drunk and force him to unknowingly perform ridiculous activities such as mopping toilets and dancing. Worst of all, they had no regard for his safety. Even though Charlie was mentally challenged and drunk, Joe and Frank sent him out for newspapers and coffee. While he was gone, they left him to fend for himself. Poor Charlie was all alone in the dark night, unable to remember who or where he was. He never cared, though. Quotation. They're really my friends, and they like me. Quote, page 194. Despite their horrendous treatment of him, Charlie didn't realize his friends weren't his true friends. So we have a topic sentence, 3 different points, examples to support, and a concluding sentence. Now, our quote here, they're really my friends and they like me, doesn't quite work with the fact he was all alone and unable to remember what he was. That isn't the best quote for this paragraph, so make sure your quotes are supporting what you're trying to say. Second body paragraph. After the surgery, Charlie's intelligence began to grow, and his fellow associates became wary of him. Whenever Charlie came near, people avoided him. Frank and Joe both declined his invitation to lunch when he received a bonus. They claimed to have other activities planned. The workers also feared Charlie. One of the factory's faculties jumped when Charlie tapped him on the shoulder, even though there was nothing intimidating about him. Beginning a quote. Everybody seems to be frightened of me. When I went over to Amos Borg and tapped him on the shoulder, he jumped in the air. Quote, then we have parentheses 200, parentheses period. Finally, everyone resented him so much they isolated him. All but one member of the staff signed a petition requesting that Charlie be fired. After realizing that he was no longer wanted, Charlie resigned. Luckily for his coworkers, Charlie's intelligence began to wane as the surgery's effect wore off. So here we have then our second body is really focused on during the experiment. Now the conclusion, the fact that it wears off, isn't really on topic, so it's not a great concluding sentence, but you do notice that the quote here was better supported. He had his own words around the quote that explained it, and it supported the point that was being made. So better on this second one. Third body paragraph. When Charlie became mentally challenged again, his colleagues treated him much better than they had before. First of all, his boss respected him. When Charlie asked for his old job back and explained about the science operation, Mr. Donegan welcomed him with open arms and praise for his bravery. Next, Joe stood up for him. When a new worker saw Charlie and began to make fun of him, Joe Carp pinned the man against a wall and ordered him to quit bad-mouthing poor Charlie. But best of all, Frank made a point of telling Charlie that he and Joe would support him. He promised that if anyone messed with him, the two men had his back and would protect him no matter what anyone said. I said, thanks, Frank, and I got choked up, so I had to turn around and go into the supply room so he wouldn't see me cry. It's good to have friends. Quote, page 210. When everyone heard about Charlie's incredible journey through intelligence, they realized how horribly they had treated him and made amends by improving their attitudes and actions towards him. Concluding paragraph. Charlie lost his intelligence about 4 months after he gained it. He went through many hardships in a short time, but he also had many triumphs. Both he and his peers learned something about each other. Charlie realized that in the beginning he never had true friends. The factory workers realized how animalistic they had acted toward a man with a low IQ. All in all, everyone discovered something about how others should be treated, and even though Charlie was never able to regain his smarts, he always remembered his relationship with his coworkers. So we see an overall analysis of the relationship because that's what the focus of this essay was. You don't have to conclude about the whole thing, but keep it focused on what you were talking about. Last but not least, a very quick review of your grading checklist. Please use this. This is what will get you the points you want to get a good grade. A couple things that I would highlight. Okay, it should be typed, double-spaced. We know that by now. You need to use the 3 quotes, and you need to make sure that I have seen your essay plan. Okay, and we should be doing that online this week. Okay, title and introduction. That's pretty straightforward. For the body, a couple things. Make sure topic sentence relates to that thesis. That's what we're doing. We are proving what you said in the beginning. Okay, use specific examples and different examples. Don't use the same example more than once. If you're proving something in this paragraph, maybe about a relationship or a personality trait, don't then use that same example elsewhere. Okay, give insight every time you give a detail. So when you're about to give an example, make sure you have your own statement about what you're trying to prove. Make sure that these are your words and you're saying, hey, the fact that they treated him like this showed they never respected him. Something that you have thought of and is showing you have a good understanding of this. Okay, make sure your information is accurate. Tomorrow we'll talk about some issues with essays where they're saying things that aren't even accurate according to the story. Make sure you explain your quotes. Don't just throw a quote in there and expect me to understand it. Make sure you have comments around it so that we understand how that quote proves your point. Finally, for conclusion, make sure it's relating to the topic. That's kind of what I just reviewed. Make sure you have a final statement to tie it all together. Okay, and make sure that it is within 5 to 8 sentences. That is on your essay plan, but just a reminder, it should be a good conclusion. Okay, make sure this is third person. That's the formal style of writing. So no I, no me, my, you, your, us, we. Don't you think, no, don't do it. Don't do it. Okay, make sure you keep verb tense consistent. So again, since most of this story is taking place in the past, use past tense verbs. This happened, then this happened. He was, he was. It's very easy for you to shift of he is kind or he is smart. No, stick with past tense. Okay? Make sure that you take a look at everything there, use your quotes correctly, make sure that they have that correct punctuation. As you go, you should be Google sharing what you have with me, and I will add comments each day to try and help you improve this. Okay, hopefully that gets you ready for today. I'm sorry these keep getting longer. I'll try and be shorter tomorrow. Love you, 8th graders. We'll talk to you later.